Hello, Mary.
Hi, Sadia.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Mary will be talking about the parents as partners in professional development. Uh, Tell us a little bit about yourself and the work you do.
Sure. Well, first, thank you for the opportunity to be interviewed. I'm really excited to be talking about as parents as partners in professional development, or as we finally call P3D, another one of our acronyms. Um, Sadia introduced me, and I've been an EITA, a happy EITA consultant for about 15 years. It's the longest I've ever had a job. Um, EITA provides technical assistance to the Bureau of Early Intervention and Family Supports, part of OCDEL. And we do that through providing direct support to our early intervention programs. For example, I provide support to the early intervention programs in both Berks County and Bucks County. And we also work on initiatives. I work on the initiative of inclusion, and I also work on family engagement. So I'm very lucky to have two really wonderful initiatives that are near and dear to my heart. Um, Before I was with the EITA, I was at the Institute on Disabilities at Temple University. I was family inclusion coordinator there. And prior to that, I had a very different career. I worked in residential energy conservation. I was director of a small nonprofit. So there were a few things that policy wise and training wise that I was able to transfer over. But what got me into this field was the birth of my son, Sean, who had Down syndrome. And that really changed my life. So I'm grateful to him every day. He has since passed. I'm telling you that not to make you sad, but when I talk about Shauna and early intervention, I like to kind of bring him into the room here. Um, that was how I got into early intervention, and I came in by taking a family leadership class that called C2P2 Confidence Partners in Policymaking for Early Intervention. Um, Wonderful class. We'll talk a little bit more about it, I'm sure, but it's the entry point for many of our family leaders, and it really was for me. So I went on from there to actually run that program and another program at Temple, and then to go with early intervention technical assistance. So thanks.
Thank you so much, Mary, for sharing that and bringing your perspective as a parent into the work you do. We really appreciate for all the work you do. Please share with us what is Parents as Partners in Professional Development and how did it start and where is it now?
Sure. P3D, it's a project of Octel, and our aim is to engage families in all aspects of professional development. So we go beyond just having families tell their personal story, but really recognize that they have a lot of expertise to contribute. So our families work with us in reviewing coursework, in doing statewide presentations, in developing training curriculum, and doing some online recording of trainings for us. So wherever there's a statewide professional development activity, we really like to include families. Families can bring their expertise as a family member, and also a lot of expertise on content. And our families have other lives and other interests and other skills beyond the important one of being a parent or a grandparent. But a lot of families and a lot of the P3D families have brought in things from their other lives and other areas of focus and expertise, and been able to contribute that to P3D as well. So Pennsylvania really can't take complete credit for P3D. Um, Although we've been participating to some extent for quite some time. P3D really came out of Natural Allies, which was a project initiated by the Frank Porter Graham Child Development Center back in 2016. So Pennsylvania was one of the states, 2006, sorry. Pennsylvania was one of the state grantees for Natural Allies, and out of that, came parents as presenters. There was a core group of families that were trained on how to tell their story. And they, at that point, went forth and told their story. A lot of the focus was in higher education. So families would be sharing their perspective as an aspect of pre-service learning, so that um, college students and graduate students would really get to understand things from a family point of view. So that really went really well for a while. Um, but at some point, it just kind of, the funding ran out. It kind of fizzled away a little bit. But we were still left with a group of names of families, quite a few families, and families that we were talking with all the time, that we really wanted to get to revitalize it somehow. So with the help of Camille Catlett, also Frank Porter Graham, and my friend and colleague Sarah Holland at the Office of Child Development and Early Learning, we reinvigorated parents as presenters into parents as partners in professional development. What we did is we really expanded it to go beyond just telling their story, but as I said, including parents in all aspects, recognizing that parents really have a lot to contribute. So, we've been really up and running for about good over 10 years. Right now, we have a database of over a couple hundred families. These are, active families. And then we are really, really fortunate to have a core group of about 20, 25 families that all, regularly participate in professional development, that serve all those functions I meant earlier in helping create and present webinars and present and review content. Um, so it's P3D is stronger than ever, I think.
It is. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Mhm.
Would you like to share some of the ways Parents as Partners in Professional Development supports families of young children?
Sure. Um, we really help families develop and strengthen their leadership skills. And when we talk about leadership, we really mean that in a very broad way, because not every family is going to feel comfortable, or not every parent or grandparent or aunt or sibling is going to feel comfortable standing up in front of a group of people and presenting. Maybe eventually they will, but from the get-go, that can be intimidating for a lot of people. So we really recognize family leadership as a family being a leader in their own right. So that would be if a family, when a family participates in their child's IFSP or IEP and they have a voice there, and they're there, and they talk about what their child's strengths are. That family is a family leader in their own right. And we offer, through the Office of Child Development and Early Learning, sort of a pathway to family leadership. Um, and we really first we want families to feel strengthened in being able to support their own child. Um, that's really the first thing, and these are the steps for meaningful family engagement as well. Um, so we move from families just feeling comfortable on their own to maybe getting involved in something locally. We have our local interagency coordinating councils that we really encourage family participation. So the local interagency coordinating councils, or LICCs, are there's one in each, just to kind of be general, say in each county. And it's an entity that really informs and advises early intervention in that county. It's composed of professionals who work in early intervention, as well as some people who have positions or work in organizations that support young children. And so naturally, the family component is really critical. So we really encourage families to get involved in their local interagency coordinating council. And then from there, there's also other opportunities for families to get involved locally and connect with each other statewide. We have organizations, Parent to Parent Pennsylvania, and that's a really great way for families to connect. And some of our families move on to being peer supporters, where they actually support other families, and that's a really great thing.
It is.
Um, And it's really just wonderful to just see families grow in their leadership and to be, really uncertain at first, but really to go to a point where they're really comfortable in sharing information about their child and really help, and then helping other families and giving information to other families and sharing with what they've learned and what they've gained with others. So so our pathway, it's supported by a number of different trainings and activities that are sponsored by P3D. Some of the P3D families are involved, and one of the main pathways is through Competence and Confidence Partners in Policy, C2P2 Early Intervention, which is run through the Institute on Disabilities at Temple. That's still going strong, over 20 years. Um, and that's a program that really gives families a broad overview of early intervention and disabilities, funding, planning for the future, how to be your child's advocate, how to connect with other families, wealth of resources that really do end up making families feel competent and confident. Just about all our family leaders have been through this. And then on a state level, we have advisory groups. We have the State Interagency Coordinating Council, which Sadia, I'm so happy that you just got appointed and you're in your new position.
Thank you so
That's
much.
very exciting. So, some of our families do move on to statewide leadership. And then we also welcome families participating in the State Interagency Coordinating Council. And we're starting some meet and greets prior to the meetings, and families can get to know about the State Interagency Coordinating Council by attending the meet and greets. So we try and create an array of opportunities for families to be supported. And everything we offer is always at no charge. We also, through P3D and through our statewide work through P3D, we're also very fortunate to be able to offer family stipends. So families receive stipends for participating as presenters or any other P3D function. We also offer childcare reimbursement. And when we're back to doing statewide conferences, we also offer accommodations within certain criteria and meals, and naturally a wonderful networking opportunity.
That is all wonderful information. Thank you so much for
Hmm.
sharing that.
Sure.
What is some of the feedback you have received from families who have participated in Parents as Partners in Professional Development over the last few years?
Families really, really love it. A lot of families, particularly first time, are a little bit apprehensive doing a presentation. But what we really try and support them, and we do get acknowledged for supporting families in the way that we do. More so than financial support, which is super important. We really never want a family to be in front of a group or participate in an event or do anything that they feel less than 100% comfortable and confident about. So we make sure that families are really, really okay with the content. We have guiding questions that we review with families prior to a presentation. We ask them for their feedback about what they'd like to talk about. And if there's a venue that they're going to present at, we make sure that they have like all of the details, their confirmation number for a hotel, the directions, that they know ahead of time. So we do get some feedback that we do. I can proudly say Sarah Holland and I do a good job of preparing families. And I think that really makes P3D so effective. The families really love the personal connection, and they also really love the knowledge and resources that they gained through participating in P3D. They appreciate the recognition from the field. We so many times have professionals come up to families after training or through a webinar evaluation and just say the parent story is what really um, was the icing on the cake of the training. And that really made it meaningful. So I think families feel really acknowledged and really connected through P3D.
I definitely agree with that. I have participated in Parents as Partners in Professional Development, and it changed my life. I became an informed parent. I was able to make connections with other families across the state and also connect with the professionals both at the local and state level.
Mhm.
What are some of the outcomes of this project you feel for the professionals at the local and state level?
Well, like I just said, that the professionals just love the family story. They love the family participating. So what that really does is it really has an impact on the field, and it has an impact on the practice of professionals. Um, and in turn, that is really going to support other families who receive services. So really, while it's great to have our P3D family leaders and develop leadership, we're really impacting all the children who receive early intervention services, and that's a really huge impact. Um, so it's good that it's good for on a statewide level that professionals can see how Ocdale values family voice and family participation. And I think that really enhances the respect that families get, and in general, and just in day-to-day service delivery.
Wonderful. I know for myself, one of the reasons I got involved was listening to a family story at the National Autism Conference. And I know family stories are a big component of the Parents as Partners in Professional Development. Why do you think it is important for families to share their stories? And what do you see as benefits for families that share their stories and those families that discover other family stories?
I think sharing, we talked a lot about sharing with professionals, but Sadia, sharing with other families is so important too. Um, and I think one of the at our National Autism Conference, which is one of our really greatest successes with of P3D, is it's a session that is run by families for families, and we've done that throughout the years. We're working on something coming up, quite a few things coming up in the future that are also going to be developed and presented by families. So um, what that really it's great for other families to see families in that kind of leadership role, and really being able to stand in front of an audience and run a whole training, or presented a whole webinar. Um, so I think that makes other families feel like, okay, maybe I can do that too, or maybe I can get that confidence and bring that into my child's IFSP or IEP. Um, but but I think more than that, just hearing other families talk about their struggles and their challenges and their successes, it really helps families feel I'm not alone. That's a really huge thing, because we really feel isolated, particularly right now. So kind of feeling connected helps families see that there's other families that have the same going on as they do. We just did that webinar on taking care of ourselves, and families talked about the difficulties during the pandemic, and the families that tuned in to the webinar just really, we got feedback that, yeah, they knew that they weren't the only ones that were having some of those struggles and difficulties, and it really, just to know that really helps a lot. Um, So I think that it's particularly important with some of the main things families struggle with autism, perhaps, and getting a diagnosis and feeling comfortable with that, what the next steps are in any kind of early intervention, or any kind of medical situation. They learn those things from our family presenters during presentations, and lots of different strategies,
Yeah,
particularly around inclusion.
absolutely. It is very important to connect with other parents. Talking about inclusion, how does Parents as Partners in Professional Development support families of young children to practice meaningful inclusion in the community and in an educational setting?
Um, it's, I think, by I think the P3D families are wonderful models of inclusion. Um, at this both in school and in the community. Um, and while inclusion is easier for some families and some children than others, what I think P3D has brought us an understanding of is every family is on their own journey in poor inclusion, and every family, really wants their child to have a sense of belonging and be part of school, be part of the community, and that's the right. So those things are really reinforced through P3D because um, P3D really um, carries out Ocdel's mission towards inclusion for all children. It's just another aspect of how we put that philosophy into practice. So it's great for families to share stories about inclusion and to share resources are really important. Sometimes families just, and I remember this even with myself, is you hear about making an adaptation or making an accommodation, um, but not know what that really looks like. What does it really mean? But families can say, okay, well that means maybe having the child have a picture schedule of what is coming next, or um, how to stamp their name for attendance when they come into a preschool classroom if they're not able, if that's something that's easier to do for them or more manageable for them to do than spell out their name and write it with hold a pencil and write it, or however. Just families inspire each other to be really creative about those things and about those other approaches, and also how to be better communicators um, amongst ourselves and also to the professionals in our family's life. I think our P3D families really model those things, and in that way are able to show other families what the possibilities are.
Yeah, and I love the session on inclusion at the National Autism Conference that Parents as Partners in Professional Development organizes. Would you like to talk a little bit about that?
Sure, that's one of the highlights, and we spend a lot of time planning for that. Um, so we, our parents, as our parent presenters, really it was actually the first time many years ago that we really said, okay, well, families can do this on their own. So EITA, we kind of sort of stepped back a little bit and we were involved, but the families got together and they planned the session, they planned the content, they put the PowerPoint presentation together, and we did come back, pretty regularly, monthly for a while, to go over and make sure that we were hitting the mark in terms of what our objectives were. But so it was we families told stories, which was really of inclusion in school and the community, but we framed it all in terms of inclusion policy and position papers, both at the federal level, the state level, and the position paper on access, participation, and support as the foundations for inclusion that was put forth initially through DEC and AEYC. So we had that framework for inclusion as part of the National Autism Conference, and we filled that out with family stories and families sharing their perspective in how to actually promote and make inclusion happen in their own lives. And of course, we had lots of great pictures of everyone's child, and that was really great for the audience, who was composed of families and professionals, to really see the real life Pennsylvania children in early intervention being successfully included in school and the community. And in some cases, parents were able to show their child transitioning to school and being included in aspects of school. So it was really a nice way to really talk about inclusion in the context of the Autism Conference, where we were speaking to professionals who work in autism and family members of children with autism.
Wonderful. How can new families connect with parents as partners in professional development?
Well, we always welcome new families because early intervention is like a flash in the pan. We say sometimes. You're in it and then you're out of it and you're on to school. So we really want to have new families constantly in the mix. Our seasoned families really contribute a lot, but early intervention are that our approaches change. We learn new things in the field. We enhance our practice. So there's things that methods service delivery. Methods of service delivery that are different now than they were, say, 10 years ago. So it's really great to have new families talk about what early intervention is like for them now so they can share that experience with professionals and have the connection to and start, you know, embarking on the pipeline to family leadership. So we families can contact me um, and my name Mary Mikus, and my email it's Mikus, my last name Mikus at pattan.net. Anytime, I'm always happy to talk to a family. I'm sure Sadia feels the same way.
Absolutely.
Um, and we do have a form on our EITA portal in the family section. There's a little box that says connect and get involved, check there. And then there's a contact form to complete. And that will get you on a family member on the P3D email list. We're hoping to simplify that process and have it be a few less steps so the families will just connect right to a Google form and give their email and then they'll start getting information. We do send a lot of information, not a lot, but we do send regular information. And the information that we send is about a lot of other resources. We let folks know about C2P2, other trainings that are happening across the state. And then when we have opportunities for families to participate in P3D, if we're doing a training on P3D, we might be doing a training coming up on how to tell your story. We just did one on taking a webinar on taking care of yourself. We're working on some other webinars in the upcoming in the future. We're planning a parent cafe coming up in January, February, March. There's always something happening. So if you get your name on the list, we send you information. You can choose to respond and say, yes, I'd like to participate if you're, or you just wait for the next one. But we're happy to have you in whatever way you're able for whatever time that you can. So we really appreciate our families and their involvement and engagement in whatever way that they can participate.
Thank you so much, Mary, for sharing that and sharing all the valuable information about parents as partners in professional development. I would like to encourage my viewers to please connect with parents as partners in professional development. And if you would like to share your experience with us at Pennsylvania Community Inclusion for All, please share your experiences in the comment section below. I would also like to thank our viewers and supporters at Pennsylvania Community Inclusion for All. If you would like to find more about us, please find us on Facebook or visit the PA Promise for Children website at www.papromiseforchildren.com. And thank you once again, Mary, for joining us.
Thank you, Sadia. It's been really fun and a great opportunity. I really appreciate it. I
Thank
hope to
you.
hear from our families who are interested in P3D.
I do too. Thank you so much.
Mhm.